Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Spirit Bubble. We're so glad that you've continued to follow us and you found us, and whatever it is that you've gained. Okay, that was my cat. Sorry, he's very meowish tonight. But we are so grateful for continuing to follow us in this journey of learning how to handle life, love, and spirituality. Um, I'm Kara.
Alma.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Um, I know in our last video we had talked about self love, you know. We really went from discussing the basics. Okay, cat. We went from discussing the basics of spirituality and going into your journal journey. And I think we're really starting to transition into exploring ourself and,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, part of self love is learning yourself to love. So, a lot of us walk through our moments, kind of rejecting who we are, kind
Yeah.
of rejecting what we're going through. And
Right.
that rejection, then we feel out in the world because people aren't seeing us, they aren't hearing us, they aren't feeling us. And that's
Right.
because we aren't doing that for ourselves. And
Right.
so we mirror that out in the world. And so the best way to circumvent that is to start with self love
Right.
and acceptance.
Right. Absolutely. And part of that is accepting who you are, accepting being who you are. Like a lot of my thoughts here the last week has been revolving a lot around just being comfortable and expressing who I am for who I am, you know. Um, I know that when we get social with people, we start reaching out, you start to realize that some people may have some expectations or they're exerting a, uh, a behavior or an opinion, and you may feel like you need to exert that in order to match them, when really the truth is far from that. That's why we're different.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
actually had an example of that today. Like
Oh.
it was my husband was in an a fired up mood,
Mm,
and he was going kind of negative in that fire. And I tried to comfort, I tried to rationalize, and my words just weren't hitting home. He
right.
was so fired, he wanted to keep being fired up. And
Yeah.
at that point, I kind of reflected on my own needs, and I was like, I can't take this negative energy without it causing me to spiral. So
Mm,
rather than continuing to engage with a knowingly negative perspective, I
right.
disengaged from the situation so I could get to my own space and be
Right.
what I needed to be healthy. And that was a big step for me because, that turning away from someone in your moment of need to respect those needs is kind of
Right.
hard. Oftentimes we've been taught to stay in the moment and like deal with it and make it okay. But sometimes the moment calls for respecting those needs and just stepping away. Don't let yourself get triggered further by the moment because it's not going to lead to anything helpful. It's only going to lead to a negative outlook for yourself. And that's not really anything anybody wants to feel.
No. So basically, instead of giving in to the situation, the stress, and letting yourself become somebody you knew you weren't, you chose to put yourself in a position where you could stay true to yourself and your desires.
Absolutely. That was absolutely
Yeah.
I like to focus on the positive, and that's my choice for how I choose to be. Nobody else has to make that choice. We're all in our own
Yeah.
freedom to be how we need to be. But in that moment, who my husband needed to be conflicted with what I need in the moment. And so it became I tried to last as long as I could to be there for what he needed, but then it just got to the point where he was choosing to stay there, and
Yeah.
I couldn't be present for that. And so I needed to disengage, and that was helpful because I think that disengagement kind of was a shock to his system that he was in such a state that it would push me away. And so it came a break in the moment. And very soon after, he was in a much better place and more jokey and back, no, back to himself.
Yeah, see, there you go. By receiving that space, it seems that not only did you allow yourself to stay to who you needed to be, but you gave him the space to realize and put himself on his own will to who he needed to be. You really reflected off of each other like that, you know?
Absolutely. Because in the moment, he didn't want to be somebody that pushed me away. And
Right,
that while he was fired up, he couldn't see clearly what energy he was putting out. And it
right.
wasn't until I was honest with what I needed that he could reflect clearly on how his behavior was.
It's really affected.
Yeah,
Yeah, what
yeah,
it was causing, the link of effects that it could have caused because you got launched into a mode that you knew was not who you needed to be or.
right, right, exactly.
Yeah,
And so by respecting us both, there was no conflict, there was no
right.
aggression or anything like that. But by respecting the moment and being true to myself in the moment, it was able to bring the moment to a better place.
Yeah. Well, earlier I had a song stuck in my head, and it was this. Because like when I'm getting ready to go into these videos, I'm thinking, okay, I need to be in a certain mindset. I need to be in this certain mode, in this certain mood. I need to be in the so
Right?
I had a song stuck in my head, and I thought, oh, this would actually be the perfect song to set it into my mind into this mode in order to record. And it was like this song, like Euphoria. It was a very spiritual, calming type of song, and I thought, you know, no, you know what? I know who I am. I love to dance. I love electronic dance music. I love uh what is it, techno. And you know what, I'm not gonna force myself into a mind that I feel like I have to be. I'm gonna put on some EDM. And so I put on some EDM music, and I was just like hopping around all over the house,
Oh,
all
yeah.
around the calm that I felt like I should have been. Because I mean, yeah, that is part of who I am, but I'm also a dance music lover. So it's like, yeah,
Yes.
Let's let's do that. You know what? We're gonna break the norms. We're gonna break the expectation. Because you know what? This is who I am. I love to dance.
Absolutely. Yes, and that was like a good step for you because it was an acceptance that you are who you are and you don't need to force yourself to be any way that you're not. You had this idea of what recording needed and who you needed to be to record, but that
Yeah,
wasn't allowing you to be yourself in the moment, which wasn't feeling this mindset that you were kind of forcing on yourself.
yeah,
It was feeling like dancing and enjoying the moment, which was what you truly needed. And you gave
yeah.
yourself that opportunity.
Yeah, that's really what I needed. I needed to get my energy up, not this smooth mellow. I needed to get my energy up because like I've been like all day lounging, lazy, barely doing nothing, just and it's had me feeling so lazy because I wasn't up being active. And so, you know what? I don't need to stay in this calm manner. I need to get up and dance.
I like that. And I just want to say we have a lot of negative connotations that come with the idea of being lazy in society. A lot of people can't accept themselves if they aren't doing something to feel good about. And that is such a limitation because we aren't meant to always be doing. We're human beings, not human
Yeah.
doings. So the essence that we're trying to work towards is being happy, Be a human that is being happy, not a human that is doing things to make them happy. It's a longer
Right,
route, and that longer route never really gets you there in the end, you
right.
know?
You yourself, you have to be happy before you can express that and give those vibes to other people, you know. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to create that energy for other people to be able to enjoy? You're creating
I,
something
oh, go ahead.
fake. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
creating something fake when you try to pretend to be someone or in some mood. You know, like you could be in a really bad mood one day and like people ask, "Are you okay?" And you could be like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great." And the truth is you're not, you know?
And that's hiding that part of yourself.
Hmm.
And in hiding that, other people can't help you feel better about it. Other
Mm-mm.
people can't see it. So again, it leads to that rejection of self that nobody wants to feel.
And it makes you less acceptable to having bad moments because like you said, we're all humans, you know, we're all going to have bad moments, we're all going to have our ups and we're all going to have our downs, and to be able to accept those downs. Now I will say, yes, I am the kind of person who doesn't really talk a lot about my own problems. That is definitely a fault of mine. I've been that way
I'm
for
right there with you. I like to listen to other people so I
yeah.
can help them. And like I might mention my problems that parallel, but I don't like to go into deep discussion about my own
Yeah,
problems because, I know that's a weight and
yeah.
that's hard for me to put on other people.
Yeah, you might graze on the topic, but you're not gonna dig deep into the can of it. You're not
Nope.
gonna.
I know exactly how that is. But
Yeah.
like for me, when I'm talking to other people, it's something that, as we're talking, I realize I need to work on because when I come to other people, I want them to be open and honest and deep with what they're going through. And
Mhm.
then I'm not treating myself the same to people that I cross paths with. I'm not allowing my problems to be something that could inspire them in the moment. I kind of hide them away
Yeah.
and skim over them and let it be something else that we focus on in the moment. And that's not giving my true self the chance to breathe in the world around me. People could learn from what I'm going through. I know that. I've showed that before. But if I hide away what I'm going through, how are other people going to relate to it?
Right, exactly. I was just thinking it makes you less relatable. When you don't express that humanity, it makes you less relatable. And when you're not relatable at all to someone's issue in any manner, they're going to be less likely to want to trust you with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like the idea. I think we mentioned in the introduction video that we're all on the same page, walking our own path. And
Hmm.
that same pagedness, it connects us and we can instantly resonate with others by finding that same page. And like, but in order to find that same page with others, you got to find it with yourself.
Yeah.
And like, you got to know your inner pages that explain who you are and how you choose to be so you can better express that to others.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to recognize it, accept it, love it, and express it.
Hmm.
You know, if
Absolutely.
you could be like someone may say, "Oh, don't steal, don't steal, don't, that's bad." But if they're not seen expressing that with their own actions and their life, their fiber of being, to teach for them to not be stealing, how are they going to be believable?
Right, right. You have to be who you are to spread what you're meant to bring to the world.
Mm,
Nobody else is ever going to be a better version of you than you are. And so by embracing who you are, it spreads the energy you're most meant to
mm,
imprint upon the world. It's most the difference you're meant to make.
mm,
We all come bearing a difference to make, and who we choose to be is that difference. And so it's all that same path we're on. It's learning ourselves and how to be ourselves so we can better influence others to do the same.
right. I know, like, some of the ways in which I've been thinking more heavily on that lately is that when I first started this journey, that's when I was really learning who I was and really expressing it to a lot of people. Well, slowly, as other real life situations started demanding more attention, such as handling other people at my job, handling my relationships. How do I feel like I should be handling it? Okay, let me do it like that. You know, instead of just really genuinely just being me the whole time, you know? And that's what really had kind of created those thoughts is like, you know, why don't I just stop creating these expectations of myself? You know, just stop creating these things that I feel like I should be saying or I should be doing. And why don't I just do what I want to do? And if it upsets somebody, if it's not within their standards or their ideals, that's fine, you know?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
because you can't please everybody and you can't expect that who you are is going to please everybody. It's just
right,
unrealistic to expect that of yourself. It's
right,
unrealistic to expect anything of yourself when moment to moment we don't know what's going to be.
right,
So if you can't know what a moment's going to hold, how can you hold yourself to a standard of how to expect yourself to be in that moment?
right. And when you do start pretending to feel a different way, or you start making choices based on what you think others are expecting, you start to lose yourself too. You start to lose your sense of yourself, and you start to realize, well, gee, I haven't done this in so long. Why don't I do it anymore? You know, like I used to go out and I used to do like a bunch of stargazing. Now, do I still love it? Yes, I still love stargazing, but I would go out under the stars and I would meditate. And like for the longest time now, I've been pausing to think to myself, why don't I ever meditate under the stars anymore? You know, like
Right?
what made me stop doing that? What expectation would, who am I trying to please that's stopping me from allocating that time for myself to help myself? You know?
Right, right. It's good that you can look and reflect on what choices you were making and why you were making them that led you to stop doing something you loved,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Because that thing you loved was a need you had. And right now, you're suppressing that need, and it's good to dig into why you're doing that so you can stop and start respecting the desires that come natural to who you are.
Right. It can cut a lot of motivation out too. You know, like right now I'm sitting here and it's like, yes, I know that I was planning to do this. This is absolutely something that I was not going to refuse because it's something I genuinely want to. But I think, well, what about when I get off the video, right? And then suddenly I fall back into that laziness because, like, I haven't gone out and I haven't been active with that for so long that it's like, oh, well, I could go out, but yeah, I've been doing this. You're right. And I'm still putting it off whenever I do that, you know? So you lose your
Mhm.
energy, you lose yourself, but you also lose your energy to go back and regain that self that you had, that you knew before.
Well, I think that's part of the natural ebbs and flows. We go and we're constantly shifting into a newer version of ourselves.
Yeah.
So in it's like in cycles. We learn ourselves, we learn how to be ourselves, and then we lose the motivation to be that person,
Mm-hmm.
which brings us back to the beginning of the cycle of inward looking and reflecting on who we are so we
Yeah.
can better find the motivation to be ourselves again. And that cycle keeps cycling because it's like peeling back layers of yourself to reveal who you're meant to be. And since life's a continual journey, you're always revealing that self. So it's
Constant
never
layers.
constantly. So it's never a stable, this is who I'm going to be and that's great for me.
Yeah.
It's more like this is who I'm going to be right now while
Uh-huh.
it works for me. And I've got to accept that this moment isn't always going to work for me. And I can change when the moment comes as I most need to by
Yeah.
reflecting on those cycles that we all go through.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really just a part of the cycle, just going back over and remembering the old self, you know? So
Absolutely.
I guess in a sense you could say it's almost like going into a rediscovery, you know?
Oh, that's a good way to describe it because it
It's
is. It's
yeah.
remembering those parts of you that were important and then figuring out why they aren't important anymore. And in place of those, what is important that feels right in the moment to focus on.
Yeah, like I suppose you could say that I might look back and I might think, oh, well, I used to spend every night gazing at the stars, right? Why don't I do it now? But now, also, by us discussing this, it also kind of makes me think, well, I know that I used to go out and spend time with just myself, but now here we are sharing with the world.
Yes, that's exactly it. All that meditation and that time alone that you took for yourself brought you to a better place where now you don't need to isolate to get that time alone to feel okay. It's kind of like you have the meditation in your mind constantly that keeps you rejuvenating so you can give to others. And that's where you've come in your journey, a place to give to others.
Yeah, didn't you have a term for that, by the way?
Meditative mind was what I
Oh,
called it.
yes, yes. Tell me about it again.
Oh, goodness. Meditative mind is the idea of keeping yourself present in the moment and comfortable with the flow of energy that is there. Whether that's your internal energy as you separate yourself from the world, or whether that's your active energy as you engage with the world around you. Whether you're inside or outside, the meditative mind keeps you connected to the whole of who you are.
Yeah.
And you get to be present and engaged and active even when nothing's going on.
Even if you're, no matter whether you're on an ebb or a flow.
Absolutely. It gives you kind of like a surfboard to coast through the moments on. And you just get to, you kind of coast along and the ebbs and the flows, they come and they go. And you like them because they teach you a lesson and there's meaning and purpose in every ebb and flow. So it's no longer feeling overwhelmed by them. It's rejoicing that they happen because now you've learned to coast with them and grow with them as they offer the lessons and learning that's always available in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, see, it slowly starts to become a little bit more relatable, stepping into that. Because, I'm the store manager and we've been like, Christmas is coming up. We've been like crazy busy.
Oh, wow. I can
And
only imagine.
yes, and I'm the one that does register training. So when we have multiple new hires and I'm having to stay in the moment with my new hires, training them while at the same time maintaining myself. It's a very, would you say, active, multiple process.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's
It's,
live in the moment, learning to balance yourself
yeah,
with what's going on, with what you need so you can stay present in the moment.
yeah.
That's hardcore learning, advanced level, in my opinion.
Oh, but let me tell you, so much of my journey has been super fast too. I know that a lot of these people that I connected with when I first started, they've been doing this for years. And like I had really just stepped into the shoes of it, and then like it was like a ton of bricks just hitting me all the
Oh, absolutely.
time.
Isn't it funny how when you open yourself up to the journey, it just like hits you like a ton of bricks and like you're confronted with everything you didn't see before. And now that you can see it, you have to figure out how to take it all in and make it have meaning. And that's that's then taking the ton of bricks that hit you and rebuilding the foundation of your belief system so you
Yeah.
can find something that works better for you.
Yeah, because you saw how many times I had to disappear and reappear and disappear. That disappearing was me finding that reset of myself and what I had been through. And like, you know how many times I disappeared on you guys over and
Oh, absolutely. Because it comes, like we talked about, in those ebbs and flows. And sometimes they take you down. They take you deep down into the darkest recesses of yourself. And
Hmm.
it's not, a lot of people feel like, why is the universe making me suffer? Why am I feeling this pain?
Oh,
And it's because the world put you through something and the universe wants you to heal from that something. So the
hmm.
dark recesses of yourself are those bits that need light, that need understanding and awareness. So it's not for trauma and abuse, but rather for help and healing,
If
right?
we were not capable of handling it and recovering from it, we wouldn't even be going through
I agree. We are
it.
never given anything more than we can handle. And
Right,
if we're going through it in this moment, it we're meant to get through it.
right.
And if you're at a place where you're wondering how you've made it this long, remind yourself you have made it this long.
Hmm.
Everything you thought you couldn't get through, you did it. You succeeded and you're here. So give yourself credit for all you've endured and let
Yes,
that be the peace you feel in the moment.
absolutely. It is shaping you, it is molding you into who you were supposed to be in like you said, in this moment, you know. It's helping to guide you where you need to be and what you need to be doing. So it may be tough, and you may be going through a lot of those dips, but the you that exists right now exists because you went through those times before.
Absolutely.
If you had never done that, like let's say you did steal as a child or as a teen, or let's say you stole as a teenager, right? And you got caught and you went to prison, you could be like, well, I can't believe that I was just put through this. But you know what? When you grow up, now you knew better. What if you had never been punished? Well, I say punished. I don't think that's a really good word, but oh, that sounds horrible.
Consequences of your choices.
Yes,
You know, it's everything we do has a resulting factor after it. We can't always control what's going to happen, but
right.
something is going to happen. And so part of learning to grow and become your best self is accepting the part you played in those consequences.
Right. And I'm sure, we all, you and I, and everybody here who's watching this, has some memory of something that they have done in the past, or a habit or a practice that they exhibited that now you're looking back and you're like, oh my gosh, I was an idiot. You know, everybody's going to have some of that. They're going to have those memories that struck you the most, that caused you to lose something that was valuable that you didn't realize before, you know?
Absolutely. We all have those moments. I myself, I went through the deepest recesses of bipolar. I turned into the worst version of myself and
Yeah.
I became the darkness that I couldn't hide in my life. I couldn't pretend to be different because I was just the worst version of myself. And so in my personal journey, becoming the living worst version of myself,
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty hard to get to love and accept. But because I had pushed everybody away with that violent way of being,
Mm-hmm.
then I had to learn to love myself because nobody
Mm-hmm.
else was there. Well, one person, my husband stayed.
Yeah.
He was the one that taught me how to love myself because he was a source of unconditional love and acceptance in my life that I wasn't showing for myself. I wasn't showing for others. And I had no way to learn or define for myself
Yeah.
but for somebody showing it to me. And when he showed it over time, it sunk in.
Yeah.
And that became how I learned to love myself,
Yeah.
was with that unconditional love and acceptance.
Now imagine if you weren't true to your old self, to that past self. If you weren't true, you covered it up and you pretended like there was nothing there. You would have still been going through that right now.
Absolutely.
Because,
Part of it was accepting that I needed to change. It
right.
was admitting that there was a problem and that problem was me. So, you know, a lot of a lot of people want to blame others and their circumstances and what they've been through in the past, and there's a lot of blame that goes on. But in reality, you can only control one thing, and that's yourself. So until you can take that personal responsibility for yourself to be yourself,
Hmm.
nothing's ever going to change. You're always going to be a victim of circumstance and out of control factors.
Yeah. So, in being ourselves and making sure that well, I'm trying to think of a good way to say this. I know what I'm going to say, and I can't. By assuring that we are being ourselves in the moment, we're essentially launching our own life lessons. We're facing our own demons. We're healing ourselves without even realizing that. And it's better to have that process than to pretend somebody that you're not and be covering this the whole time, you know? You're only hurting yourself. You're denying the world what you have to offer as well, because also with the bad comes the good. Like you're denying,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're denying your good as well when you do that because you're going to be so conflicted in your heart, battling this, keeping this secret that you can't express that good.
The word that came to mind as you were expressing yourself was inner conflict. I think a lot of us have an inner conflict with ourselves, with who we expect ourselves to be,
Hmm.
with who we really are, with who we don't want to be. There's just a lot of conflict that's broiling inside. And
Yeah,
that's hard to deal with because when you want to show yourself to others, you don't want to be conflicted. You want to be confident and, you know, that ideal self that we have. But until you can confront the inner conflict and make peace with it, it's hard to make peace with the world outside of you and your place in it.
yeah,
So really a lot of revealing these layers of self come to highlight where you're at conflict with yourself. And
yeah,
so the more you can love and accept and understand,
yeah.
the better you can grow at feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, when someone says, "Oh, well, you've changed," that doesn't mean that you have to go back and say, "Oh, no, yeah, I'm not the same person. I better go back to what I was. Let me go back and try to practice some of this stuff." That doesn't mean that. It just means that, first off, you're a new person. Accept that. Be that person that you are. And that other person needs to accept it as well. If they
Right.
can't accept your new self after some after life lessons or wisdom that may have shined upon you or experiences that may have shaped you, then how much are they really willing to stay with you?
Absolutely. That's a great question. You know, if I imagine the idea of somebody saying you've changed, and all I can think is thank goodness. Like I don't want to be the
Oh,
same stagnant self. So if I've changed, then it would make me want to reflect upon why this person feels that change is bad.
yeah,
And that would dive me into conversation with that. Because for me, in how far I've come in my journey, change is effortless. It's in every moment. You can't help just breathing changes your body. So you can't resist change, but you can learn to flow with it. Like change is the current of life. And rather than clinging to a rock for dear life, let go and flow with the current
yeah,
and let yourself be true to yourself in the moment, which is a lot easier to be once you know how.
oh yeah. And who knows? We might get out of this call and be different in some minor way.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
might be different after watching this and having self reflected and taken in the words. You might be somebody different than you were before watching this, and that's okay. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Be you. Be you in the moment. Be the you that you know you need to be, and you don't have to lie about it. You don't have to be, you don't have to pretend to be that old person who was ignorant of something or who only liked a certain something, just to make others happy. You need to make yourself happy. But in order to do that, it takes that self acceptance of the truth of you and loving that truth of you?
Yep, that's definitely a big step to take,
Yeah,
loving the truth that you are.
yeah,
Because, a lot of the world teaches us to kind of lie to ourselves and deceive ourselves about stuff. And
right.
it can be distractions following those misconceptions about who we are. And so
Oh,
when you finally nail into that truth and you get to see it for yourself, it feels good because you're like, I finally understand why I didn't feel understood before. And
yeah.
that's a good feeling. Like, I know when I connect with you and we have that parallel moment and we're like, synchronicity, it's like, it's a
Always.
really good feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good to try to find that synchronicity with yourself, that inner peace that accepts you and all you've been through and allows you to be just as you need to be with respect to everything that shaped you and everything you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, One of my spiritual connections, in the time that I was still learning the very basics of it, I wanted to see what it would be like to live in well, if I can pronounce this right, a state of Ma'at. You know, like it's a set of 42 ideals of just moralities, right? And I thought, okay, well, if living in truth of the world means living within these moralities, all this, I want to try to put my life into that line of all that. So that way I can be like, all right, I'm really living the true light. I'm being my true light. And I mean, while it's not a bad idea, however, I eventually, and I can't remember what dawned me upon this knowledge, but something had dawned me upon the knowledge that, living in the state of Ma'at didn't mean living perfectly. It meant living in our truth, my truth, your truth, all you guys' truth, your personal truth. Okay? So just because all those ideals existed, it didn't mean I had to fulfill all of them. It just meant that I had to be to the ones that resonated with me in my life and my processes.
I think that's a big step in spirituality. When you can separate yourself from the words and thoughts of others that
Mhm.
guide you and help you along the way, and step back into yourself and define for you what it means
Yeah.
and what you need. That's a huge step to come to because
Oh.
a lot of our culture is about influencing others to think the same way as we do.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people feel led to believe if they aren't thinking like others think, they
Right.
might not be right in their thinking. And so it's a powerful step to make to be like, hey, I agree with this truth that this text is sharing, but I have a truth that shines just a different light. And
Well,
I'm okay with shining that light because it's me.
right. I mean, it's like, religious practices. Just because somebody teaches you this is how you do this, it doesn't necessarily mean that's how you resonate with doing it. It's just a guide. And then I see all these self-help books and these spirituality life books and stuff. And while yes, these kind of resources could be helpful in helping us, they're not the only guide. Like just because a book outlines a certain lifestyle, it doesn't mean my life is going to fit in that. So there's only so much of that outside resource that's really going to help you. You have to look here. You have to look here. If you don't look there, you're not going to find your truth.
Right. You'll just be a living reflection of somebody else's understanding of the world around them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not that other people don't have beautiful perspectives and insight into the path we all take in life, but in order to feel fulfilled by your journey, it has to be your journey, not your journey as told by somebody else.
Or as outlined, or as expected, or as instructed, or as passed down. It's your journey, and the only way that you can bring out the best of you is living your journey and nobody else's. Now it may synchronize with somebody else's. Like you and I, we parallel. Yep, yep. See, like that. Yep. You guys all witnessed this. It may synchronize with someone else's, but it's never going to be exactly alike.
Right. And that's what makes it such a fun journey is that even though everybody's going through it in different details, different ways, we're all working to heal ourselves and to enjoy the journey that we're on. And that's just awesome because like for me, now that I've found my path in my journey,
Mm-hmm.
now I get to share with others and witness them find their own paths, which is exciting because we're walking together. And it's
Yes,
just awesome to get to experience that alongside others.
yes. And now that, like we've kind of had a little small discussion about how this topic came around involving my thoughts, um, I can look at this and I can be like, okay, I may not be outside meditating under the stars, okay? But it doesn't mean I'm not connected. However, it's actually really evolved where instead of meditating the information, I'm sharing the information because here we are right now doing that. And if it wasn't meant to happen like that, you guys wouldn't be watching this video.
Right? Everything is as it's meant to be. And so we took our steps in our journey so we could be here to help others take the steps in theirs. And
Yes.
that's just a wonderful cycle of giving that I love about self love and healing and acceptance.
Yes. So I definitely hope that you guys were able to find something off of this video and off of our discussion and reflections of some of our personal journeys, and maybe be able to synchronize with that. We'd love to know how you've really come along and what you've learned about yourself. I mean, we are absolutely always welcome to any discussion.
Absolutely. So if you're going through something and you need a different perspective to help lift the moment, leave a comment. Let us know what you're going through. We'd love to hear it and just be there with you in the moment.
Absolutely. And listen to yourself. Follow yourself. Don't
Absolutely.
don't
Couldn't say
base
it better.
don't base your life on others' expectations. And when you learn to be able to start doing that, you're really going to find your value in the world, your value in yourself, and you're going to be able to project that a lot easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this topic today, guys. Though I know there's so much more we probably even could say on that. But we're going to go ahead and let you go ahead and dive into yourself now. And please feel free to comment, share. Let's talk about it. All right?
Yes.
See you next time.